Hello, thank you very much for tuning in today. Today we're on the move. We are heading to my favourite event on the UK calendar, to arguably my favourite track of them all in the UK, and that is, it's the Masters Historic at Brands Hatch. I haven't been back to Brands Hatch since 2022. I did the final season finale for the touring cars, which was Jason Plato's final race in the event. It was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. I've done, in that season I did Brands Hatch a couple of times, and it was, what a track. I absolutely fell in love with the place. It is, you know, for most people say it's the best track in the UK by far. I absolutely love it. And yeah, we're going to, like I said, my favourite event on the calendar. So I first went to a Masters Historic race back last year at Donington Park. I didn't really know too much to what to expect when I went there. I just kind of went and just to see what was going on, and yeah, lo and behold, it was one of the most enjoyable events I'd ever done. You know, it was super relaxed, not too busy, and the variety of cars on show was incredible. You know, things that people of, like, you know, my generation would never have been able to see live. You know, pre-60s Formula One cars, some of those endurance legends from the 80s, and then today in particular what we're going for, and what I can't wait to see, is those 66 to 85 Formula One cars. I got into Formula One in the 90s. I think my first race was when I was about 7 years old. I say race, I went to qualifying at Silverstone when I was like 7 years old, and I still remember the entire experience and seeing those cars come past me. You know, Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen, people like that, and it was incredible. But the previous generation to that, you know, we had some of the most amazing looking cars, particularly, you know, that Marlboro McLaren, so I can't wait to see some of those today. Felt great to be back at Brands Hatch. It's an amazing circuit, lots going on, and again, like I said, one of the best events on the calendar. So my first stop off is always Druids. It's somewhere I feel quite familiar, on a track that I've not really shot a lot of work on. So all of these photos are taken from spectator viewing. I'm not media accredited. I don't get any decent access, but I make do with what I've got. In the past, I'd only had a 70 to 200mm lens. This time I got my Sigma 150 to 600 with me, which allowed me to zoom right in, avoiding all the fence and catching some of these. So all of them shot at a higher shutter speed, lower aperture to make sure that I don't get any of that fence in there. The great thing about this particular spot is you can get not only the shot of the car coming up the hill, but you can get some pictures of the cars behind them coming down Paddock Hill Bend. So after that, I kind of got my bearings, took a few shots, was pretty happy, and then I moved onwards. Although I did feel like I was in very unfamiliar territory, it's definitely somewhere that I need a lot more practice on. We're going to take a little pause just here to listen to some LMP2s. I did manage to find this little spot as the cars were going round Stirling. I decided to do a little bit more experimentation on these two shots here. It took me ages to actually land one that I was fairly happy with. And I'd say the first one of those two, probably the better ones. Wanted to accentuate the bend, trying to get the trees in there as well. So for that I went low on the shutter speed. Then continued to walk around. This time, this Ferrari here, just coming round Surtees and onto the straight onto the Pilgrim's Drop. This again was a fairly tough spot because there is a big fence in the way. I noticed that someone actually had a little step stool that they were using to get over that, which is a good idea. Then walking around a little bit more. Again, like I said, I couldn't find many spots that I really could do anything with. I'll explain a little bit more why I couldn't do much later on. This one coming down Clearways and into the Clark Curve. Now, in a slightly more familiar territory, after the lunch break, I popped myself at Clark Curve, capturing this fantastic King Cobra just here. This is the one coming down the hill, and the good thing about this spot is you can actually shoot them as they're coming down the hill and as they're going round you onto the main straight. Having a little play around again with the Clark Curve, you can really accentuate the bends just by tilting your camera here, and then sort of a little bit more on the back end of the cars along the Brabham Straight. This particular shot is something that I always like. You've got some pit wall action there and the car going past. If you can get wide enough, what you can do is you can get the entire grandstand in there as well. Now, moving swiftly onwards, I moved over to Paddock Hill Bend itself, onto a bit more familiar territory here. Showing off in this photo just how competitive the grid is. All those pre-66 touring cars, which they look amazing. It's a great one to shoot, this one. And for this, I've got kind of two different style of shots on this curve. So I've got the faster shutter speed here, that I wanted to capture that fire coming out of the Mustang. And then here where I actually attempted to do it panning, and it just didn't work out for some reason, but it did on this one instead. That's the good thing about Paddock Hill Bend, is there's plenty to be done here. You can do a bit of panning, a bit more of a static shot on a higher shutter speed. There's all sorts you can do. Again, this one is Paddock Hill Bend, but taken from a slightly different spot, much further back in between the trees. This was quite a difficult shot to actually nail. I don't think it's particularly good. The car's in fairly good focus, but it's a quite messy shot and not one that I'm perfectly happy with, but it gives you a good example. Again, same with this one, it's quite a messy shot. What I was trying to do is get the crowd in there, get the car in there, but I think what ruins it is unfortunately that fence. You can't really complain about the fences though, they are there for our safety. Again, same problem I would say on this one. I've kind of nailed the pan. I've got the full curve in there, but there is that fence in the way, just makes it a little bit messier. This one's slightly more zoomed in. Again, same spot. A better photographer could most definitely nail this. I haven't quite captured it, but I am happy with the composition and what I was trying to do there. Okay, then I walked back up the hill a little bit more, this time shooting primarily on Druids, where there is a lot to be done. So this one, nice and zoomed in, of that Mercury there spitting some fire. It was a gorgeous colour on this car. Took quite a shine to that one. And then slightly more zoomed out on this gorgeous Austin Cooper. Managed to get a bit more of the curve on there. And you can see I've tilted my camera again just to accentuate the curves. It's a great spot, and you need to do it justice with the photos you're taking. And this one, once again, slightly wider, higher shutter speed shot for the Brewstone. And again with the Brewstone, this time walking slightly further up the hill. There is this big gap between the fences as the car's coming away from you. But for this shot, I decided to pan it, accentuating again the curves and the speed of the car, which will be going from this point through Druids and down into Graham Hill. And then this one, probably not the best cropping, and because it makes it look like it's going down the hill when it's actually going up the hill. So definitely something I need to be working on there. But this again is through Druids. This one was shot through the fence. I had to go quite low on the shutter speed to try and avoid that fence blur. Pretty happy with this one though, and that number 49 Mustang spitting fire. And then I've walked slightly round the corner. By accentuating the curve, I was able to get both cars nailed on this one. And then this time slightly more zoomed in of just the one. I think on this shot, it's very important to get those red and white curves in there. Just gonna give the photo just that little bit more character, more color, and more going on. And then again at Druids, this time I've just turned around slightly, point the camera down the hill. This Williams just here was actually off the racing line. I think they had a problem, but still, I think it looked good. I wanted the Fly Saudia in there as well, and then the red and white curve just gives the photo a little bit more of a story to it. Okay, then moving on to this one. This time I moved on the inside of Druids. Along with me to Brands Hatch, I took my vintage lens, my 70-210, and by taking this, I decided to leave my usual modern day DSLR lens at home. Bit of a risk, but I thought with the age of the cars, it would be great to take it along with me. However, not all of the shots come out quite how I wanted them. On the slower shutter speed stuff that I would normally have done on my panning, it all came out completely overexposed. And for many of the shots, I couldn't actually do a lot with it. This is actually quite a fairly high shutter speed. This is why I was a little bit more held back on some of the shots I was taking. The 70-210 vintage lens wasn't quite reacting that well with the camera, so I couldn't do my usual stuff. However, I was really happy with the way these ones come out. Kind of some unique sort of colours that maybe you wouldn't have captured on my Sigma lens, and instead capture it on that 1970s Canon lens. I figured with the cars of this age, they needed that treatment, and I wanted to capture them exactly the same way they would have done back in the day. And the final shot I want to talk about, this is probably the one I'm most happy with, although the pan isn't quite nailed. That gorgeous Williams Formula 1 car from the 1980s, coming round Graham Hill Bend. I shot this from the inside of Druids on a long lens. I wanted to capture the entire curve in the shot and nail the pan as it was going through the trees. It was a very difficult shot to do. Most of the images I've got from that particular bit have come out completely blurry. So despite feeling a little bit unfamiliar with the territory I was in and kind of walking around aimlessly for quite a while, I was very happy with the photos I took from this event. So before I go, if you enjoyed this video, if you like this channel, please subscribe along. There's plenty more videos like this to come. And if there's anything in particular that you liked, feel free to give me a comment. If there's something potentially that I missed out or I could have done better, please, once again, let me know in the comment section. I'm more than willing to learn, and I'm needing to learn a little bit more. And it also can help others if they're reading them in the comment section. To see a bit more of the photos I actually took today, take a look at my social media pages, which I'll put in the description.